With our controllers all in place, we are ready to attach them to the skeleton. In this module, we'll be doing just that by using the parent constraint to bind all our controllers to their proper joint. To get some unique functionality in our rig, we'll be adding IKs to the arms and legs, as well as using pole vector constraints to control the elbows and knees. Because we are using IKs for the arms, we'll need to constrain the controller in a special way to get movement and rotation like we want. The foot is a similar situation, but we'll be using a different method, so we're prepared to create our inverse foot roll later on. We also want control over the eyeballs, so we'll need a new set of controllers and aim constraints to get that movement. Later on, we'll be adding scale functionality to the rig, so we'll group our rig and use our global controller to control its scale with a scale constraint. Once we finish up with our constraints, we'll be modifying the skeleton one last time to allow for root motion functionality. Finally, we can connect all our controllers together with physical parents so that the rig moves the way that we'd expect. Now that we've finished creating all of our controllers, we're ready to start constraining them to all the joints. But before we do that, we want to make sure that all of our transforms are frozen. So if you look at some of these controllers that we've made just by selecting them, you can see we have transform values in the channel box. We also want to make sure that the transforms for the joints are frozen too. So if you select some of these joints here, you may find some of the rotate values still have things in them, like this one here. There's still scale values and rotation values. So that's what we don't want when we start constraining these controllers to the joints. So I'm going to start with the controllers. Over here in the outliner, I'm going to select the top controller, this global controller. And then I'm going to come down all the way to the bottom. I'm going to hold Shift and click on the jaw there, which is at the bottom. And now I've selected every single controller. And then I'm going to go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. And now we see that there are no values in the channel box over here, in the transforms. And now we want to do the same thing for the joints. So I'm going to go in the outliner. I'm going to select our center joint here, which is the root of all our joints. And then I'm going to go up to Select, and then I'm going to select Hierarchy right here. That way we're selecting all the joints in the entire hierarchy. And now we can do the same thing. We can go to Modify, Freeze Transforms. And you may notice that some of the joints move a little bit, and that's just because we once had scale values on these. Some of them were scaled when we were positioning them, like the arms, and those values have been set to 1, so they're all uniform now. So all of our joints should look nice and clean and uniform. And now we know we are completely ready to start constraining these controllers to the joints. So to begin, I'm just going to start here at the head. That way I don't get lost. I know I'm just going to start with the head and go down, because you don't want to miss any. It can be easy to miss some controllers. So to start, we're going to go right here on the hair. I'm going to select the hair controller first, and then I'm going to go and shift select the joint for the hair. And now we can go to Constrain up here in the toolbar. And if you don't see Constrain, make sure you're in the rigging tool set, which is in this drop down here, and click rigging. So I'm going to go to Constrain, and I'm just going to click parent here, because I want to use the parent constraint just like we were using before to control this hair. And that way, if I want to move this, I can translate it and I can rotate it. And so next up we have the head here. And what's good to note while you're doing these is make sure that our pivot point is set on the joint. So by using the transform tool, you can see that our pivot point is right in that joint there. So while you're going through and constraining these controllers, it's good to check to make sure, because it can be a hassle later on to move it. It can be done if you mess up, but it's better to avoid it on the first go instead of having to go back and fix it. So that looks good there. I'm going to now quit that tool by hitting Q, and I'm going to click on the head joint. And then I'm going to hit G instead of going to Constrain and Parent, because hitting G will redo the last tool that we did. So by hitting G, you can see that we've essentially done the same exact thing. We've parented this controller to the joint, and it all looks really good. So now the neck, I'm going to check to make sure our pivot is in a good place. I'm going to shift select the joint and hit G again, and we've done our parent. And then I'm going to go, I guess, over to this clavicle here and shift select the clavicle joint, which is this one here. Hit G, and then we have the right clavicle, same thing, G. And then I'm going to parent the shoulder pad next, so that joint is right there. Hit G, and all the while I'm checking to make sure the pivot point is in a good place. The other pauldron pivot looks good. Shift and click G. Now we'll head right down to the spine controllers here. And this is actually not a spine controller, even though I named it this way. It's actually the chest controller. So I want to make sure I correct that while I see that problem. So chest con. And now I'm noticing these other spine controllers are named improperly as well. I've named them spine joint instead. So in the outliner, I'm going to go in there and correct that by changing this to spine 3 con, spine 2 con, spine 1 con. So it's nice to go through each individual controller here and correct these little errors that might have occurred, like the pivot point being misplaced or a name being wrong or something. It's just a good process to check your work so that you don't run into issues later on. So right back to business, we're going to select this controller, and I'm going to shift select the joint and press G. And now we've parented that. And I'm going to do the next one. Make sure the pivot's good. I'm going to hold shift, click that, and press G. And then we have the next one, which is right here. Pivot looks all right. Shift select the joint, G. And then we have the last spine here. Pivot looks just fine. Shift select the joint, hit G. So we're looking good there. And I'm going to jump back up because we got a little carried away. We missed his beard here, and that's important. And his jaw even. So I'm going to click his jaw controller. And look at that. That pivot point is in the wrong place. So all we really need to do is hold D and V and drag that right into the center of the joint, just like that. And that is all there is to it. So now I'm going to shift select the joint, press G, and we've parented that with a constraint. Now I'm going to go down the chain, the beard chain. I'm going to check these pivot points. Select that joint there, press G, we're good. And I'm just going to go right down the chain here, that same exact process. And it looks good to me. So I think the whole top body and the spine is done. And now we just need to take care of this center controller here. And that will be constrained to this joint here. So I'll press G. And it did it. It worked. And now we have our hip controller, and that's going to be constrained to this joint here. Pivot looks good. And I'm going to press G for that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's all the basic controllers that we have to constrain that way. The hand and the feet controllers are all going to be treated a little differently because we have a unique IK foot roll system here in the feet and an IK system up in the wrists as well. So for those areas, we'll confront them later as we move along with this process.